My girlfriend used my card to host a $1,200 birthday dinner I wasn't even invited to. I didn't yell, I just watched it all fall apart. Sarah, 29 female, and I, 32 male, had been dating for almost 2 years. We met at a bar trivia night through mutual friends. She was attractive, self-assured, and had a way of drawing people to her. I fell hard. Sarah is employed in it at a downtown company, an entry-level position providing assistance. She often talked about it as if she were in charge of the place, even though the compensation wasn't tremendous. I managed my own small business as a general contractor. I've taken it from nothing to something I'm proud of, but it's not glamorous. It covers all the expenses and more. Everything was great when we first started dating. On weekends, we would explore the city, try out new eateries, and see independent films at the small theater she adored. Looking back, though, there were always subtle clues that something wasn't quite right. Little remarks about my attire, subtly humorous comments about my truck, and the fact that she had never once introduced me to any of her co-workers in the previous 2 years. Since I was in love, I chose to disregard everything. Approximately a month ago, Sarah noted that her employer was hosting a large client appreciation party at a high-end hotel in the downtown area. She was assisting with the planning and appeared to be under a lot of pressure to make sure everything went according to plan. One evening, she casually stated, "Jessica Fromit is bringing her boyfriend," as she browsed through her phone. "He's a lawyer or something." Without giving it much thought, I said, "Parameter, oh, can you bring someone?" I observed her moment of hesitation before she said, "I could come for moral support if you want." "I mean, I guess you could come. It's just a bunch of corporate people talking about boring work stuff." Since I was aware that she had been experiencing financial difficulties recently, I volunteered to assist with some of the costs. She had been making hints that she might have to move because her lease had increased. In the end, I paid for her new outfit $450, her boss's gift basket $200, and more party materials, hardly pocket change, but hardly a fortune either. I cleaned up nicely on the night of the party, wore my finest outfit, which I kept for meetings with possible high-profile clients, and got a new hairstyle. When I picked her up in my pickup, Sarah asked if I remembered the gift basket and hardly acknowledged my appearance. I could feel her getting tense next to me. When we got to the hotel, she began to move a little ahead of me, putting some distance between us as we made our way through the foyer and into the ballroom. "Maybe you should wait in the bar," she said abruptly. "I need to check on some things first." I said, "I'll just come with you." Although she didn't argue, she appeared irritated and said, "Maybe I can help carry something." I was impressed when we walked into the ballroom. It all looked fantastic. Gourmet appetizers being served, an open bar, and mood lighting. Sarah saw some co-workers right away and went over, with me following. A woman wearing a sleek black dress commented, "Sarah, everything looks amazing. Who's this?" There was a pause, a beat too long. Sarah interrupted me as I reached out to introduce myself. "This is James, my driver for the evening." The words lingered in the atmosphere. Her colleague, who was obviously not convinced that I was a driver, looked perplexed and glanced at my suit. She cocked an eyebrow and said, "Your driver?" "Yeah," Sarah said with an overly loud laugh. "He was nice enough to drop me off, but now he's actually heading out." She glanced at me. "Right, James." It seemed as though someone had punched me in the stomach. I was her driver after 2 years of dating. I helped her go a few paces away from the group by taking her elbow gently. "What the hell was that about?" I said softly, maintaining a calm voice. She looked over her shoulder to see if anyone was observing as she rolled her eyes. "Look, these are important people. My career is on the line here. You really should just go wait in the car or something." Reminding her, "I helped pay for this party. I bought your dress," she stated at that moment, staring at me with a look of utter disdain. "You should be grateful I even let you in." Everything became quite evident in that instant. All of those hints, all of those remarks, they weren't only oddities or bad days. This was her true identity. I didn't raise my voice or quarrel, simply gave a nod, replied, "You're right," and turned to leave. After getting my jacket from the coat check, I drove quietly home. Sarah had left a dozen missed calls and texts on my phone by the time I arrived at my house. "Where are you? Are you seriously leaving me stranded? Don't be so dramatic. You're embarrassing me." None of them got a response from me. I just opened a beer and switched off my phone. It was as if I had finally woken up from a long dream, and I felt oddly at ease. Sarah arrived at my door early the following morning. She had been crying, as seen by the puffiness in her eyes, however. I saw that her makeup was still flawless and constantly prepared for the camera. Sarah was that person. She insisted, "What happened last night? You just left me there. I had to get an Uber home. I didn't invite her in, so I leaned against the doorframe. You called me your driver. It was just a joke." God, you're so sensitive. Those people are important to my career. I didn't want them to think I was, dating a contractor. She had the grace to appear a little embarrassed when she said that. I finished for her, "That's not what I meant. It's just complicated office politics and all that." Then the tears started to fall. That was her forte, crying when instructed to do so. She apologized to me, said that she had been anxious about pleasing her employer, and promised to put things right. She even recommended that the two of us go on a weekend break. Her words, "I love you," touched my face. You know that, right? Last night was a mistake. I was being stupid. I gave the impression that I believed her, listened to her justifications and explanations, made her coffee, and invited her inside. She apparently thought we were fine and left soon after. On the surface, things appeared to be back to normal. A few days later, Sarah was very loving, always sending me heart-shaped texts and discussing our future. She phoned me a week or so after the party occurred, and she sounded quite excited. "Babe, guess what? My birthday's coming up in a couple of weeks, and I was thinking of hosting a dinner for some colleagues at that new fancy place. Antelli's. That sounds nice," I responded in a neutral tone. "Yeah, but here's the thing, I'm a little short on cash this month, after that party and everything." Knowing the answer, I asked, "You want me to help pay for it, would you? It would mean so much to me. Just my work friends, a chance to network a bit." I saw that she had not extended an invitation to me. "How much are we talking about?" "Probably around $1,200 for the private dining room. They need a card on file." "I can put my card down for you," I replied. "Just let me know when you need it." She cried, "You're the best. I'll come by tomorrow to get it." When she visited the following day, I gave her my credit card. Unaware that it wasn't my typical card, she accepted it with a smile. I said nonchalantly, "So, what time should I be there?" Her smile wavered a bit. Actually, it's just going to be work people, boring shop talk and all that. You wouldn't enjoy it." "Got it," I replied with a sympathetic nod. "No problem." She gave me a short kiss and murmured, "Thanks for understanding," before heading out. "You're the best." I reported the card I had given her as misplaced when I called my credit card company the day of her meal. They issued a fresh one right away and cancelled the old one. I then went to Antelli's, wearing my finest suit, which was even nicer than the one I had worn to her work party. I chose to sit in the bar area, which was partially hidden by a decorative partition, but had a nice view of the private dining room, rather than entering through the main entrance. They got there at 7:30. Sarah was surrounded by her co-workers and looked lovely in a new dress that I had never seen before. The partygoer who had seen her call me her driver was someone I knew. Additionally, there was a man I didn't recognize who kept touching Sarah's lower back. She didn't want to leave his touch. She appeared to be leaning into it, in fact. I watched while ordering a scotch. They were raising glasses, toasting, laughing, and taking pictures. Being the focus of attention was exactly what Sarah was doing. She looked different here, I noticed, exuberant and self-assured, not at all like the frequently whiny girlfriend who worked just as an IT support specialist. The server delivered the check to their table at precisely 9:45. Sarah waved down proposals from her co-workers to divide the tab, and I watched with a smug look as she confidently handed over my credit card. The words, "It's my birthday, please, this is my treat," came to me with the card. The server departed. The minutes passed, then I saw him come back, bending down to talk to Sarah in a low voice. Her expression turned from bewilderment to fear, presumably checking her banking app. She struggled with her phone, then she began typing furiously, perhaps messaging me. In my pocket, my phone buzzed. "James, something's wrong with your card. It's declining. Call me now." I didn't answer. There was another text. "This is serious. I look like an idiot in front of everyone. The bill is over $1,200. I remained silent, though. I simply sipped my scotch and observed the scene as it transpired. Sarah was now clearly upset, and when she excused herself to her co-workers, her face reddened. I could imagine her experimenting with different wallet cards, maxed out. She had just complained about her credit card debt last week, so I knew 5 increasingly frantic texts later, I responded, "Look behind you." I saw her head shoot up in astonishment as she read the message. She then spun around and looked around the room before focusing on me at the bar. Her face was devoid of color. Pulling an envelope out of my jacket pocket, I proceeded quietly toward their private dining room after getting up and paying for my drink. When I walked in, there was an almost ludicrous hush. Sarah's horrified eyes grew wide. The woman from the party and a few others at the table appeared to recognize me. One of them questioned, "Isn't this your driver?" "Sarah," I said with a charming smile at the table. "I'm, or was, her 2-year boyfriend." I took a few pictures of us together from the envelope, including ones from holidays, events, and trips, and laid them out on the table. "I also happened to be the guy who paid for her dress at your client party, the gift basket for her boss, and who she called her driver for my troubles." There was a loud, awkward silence. Suddenly, the man who had been caressing Sarah's back moved away from her. The woman at the head of the table, her employer, had her eyes narrowed as she stared at the pictures. Sarah, her face now scarlet, screamed, "James, can we talk about this outside?" "No need," I remarked amicably. "I just came to wish you a happy birthday and let you know that the card was cancelled, reported lost yesterday." She threw up her attempt at poise and yelled, "You did what?" I straightened up and adjusted my suit jacket. "Oh, and to answer your question from 2 weeks ago, no, I'm not grateful you let me in, but I am grateful for the clarity." I looked at the table. "Enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone. The check's all yours, Sarah." She grabbed my arm and leaped to her feet. "You can't just leave. At least pay the bill." I glanced at her hand on my arm before turning my attention back to her face. I murmured softly, "Off," and turned to leave. I could hear the mayhem breaking out behind me as I walked away. Sarah shouting my name, confused muttering, and someone proposing that they divide the cost. I didn't turn around. The calls and texts continued unabated the following day. Sarah took turns between pleading for my pardon and threatening to ruin my reputation. Her number was blocked by me. She made 2 appearances at my house. The door was not answered by me. From her friends' phones, she left heartfelt voicemails. I didn't listen and erased them. In fact, one of her co-workers contacted me on LinkedIn a week later, after her manager found out that Sarah had been lying about her function and responsibilities, claiming credit for projects she wasn't involved in. There apparently had been an HR inquiry at work. The man at the restaurant who had been groping her, a senior developer she had been covertly seeing, broke up with her right away. My door was knocked on 2 weeks after the disastrous birthday meal. When I opened it, I saw an elderly couple standing there, appearing uneasy. There was no mistaking the familiarity of Sarah's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson. I was truly taken aback. Only once while they were in town had I had the opportunity to meet them. Her father murmured, "James?" with a distressed expression. "May we come in?" Curious as to why they had come to my door, I opened it for them. The uneasy atmosphere permeated the air as we sat in my living room. When she eventually said, "We wanted to apologize," her mother said, "for Sarah's behavior, for everything." Her dad gave a nod. "She's been struggling since that night at the restaurant, lost her job, had to move back home with us." I said, "I'm sorry to hear that, and I kind of meant it. I didn't want Sarah to endure any hardship. In spite of it all I wanted was for her to leave my life with firmness." Her mother answered, "No, don't apologize. She did this to herself." We've always known Sarah could be materialistic. We probably indulged too much when she was younger. Her dad had a disheartened expression. We encouraged her to find someone financially stable, told her to use her looks while she had them, but we never thought she'd go this far. That clarified a few things. I recalled that when her father learned that I had my own company, he used to make jokes about Sarah getting a huge fish. Then her father added, "She told us what happened. Not at first. She came home with some story about you humiliating her, but eventually, we got the truth out of her." An envelope was taken out of her purse by her mother. "She's too ashamed to come herself, but we wanted you to have this." A $925 check and a handwritten letter that said, "For the dress, the gift basket, and everything else," were found inside. I apologize. I gazed intently at the check. The money wasn't the point. It had never been. "We made her take responsibility," her father clarified. "Made her sell some of her designer stuff to pay you back. Small step, but it's something." I said, "Thank you," and put the check back in the envelope. "I appreciate you coming." She appears to have erased all of her social media profiles in order to concentrate on personal development or something. I am doing well in business. I've cautiously resumed dating. I had coffee with a kindergarten teacher last week. She seemed genuinely interested in my responses and asked insightful questions about my business after I informed her that I was a contractor. There are times when I remember Sarah calling me her driver in the hotel ballroom. Even though it was painful, I now appreciate it. At pivotal occasions, some people reveal their true selves. Others show up as minor, inconspicuous acts of cruelty. In any case, trust someone when they first reveal themselves to you. I only wish I had accepted it sooner. For those who are curious about the credit card situation, the answer is no, she was not able to be charged with fraud. I gave her the card in good faith, and I reported it as lost rather than stolen. In that instance, the bank simply cancels and reissues. Indeed, it was petty to leave her with that bill, but I felt entitled to a little pettiness after being treated like a truck-wielding ATM for 2 years. Thanks for watching and sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed these stories, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next drama-filled episode.